Have you ever felt that everything that once hurt you now seems to return to where it truly belongs? Like a strange breeze, quiet and unannounced, yet carrying the scent of justice. I call it the boomerang effect of karma. It sounds mysterious, doesn't it? But if you listen with your heart, you will understand that the universe never forgets. Let me tell you something that only those who have been deeply hurt can truly feel. When someone deliberately causes you pain, whether through words, actions, or even a toxic thought, they are really throwing a stone into a lake. That stone creates ripples that spread far away and seem to disappear. But in a miraculous way, those ripples always return, carrying the very energy they once sent out. I know there are days when you ask yourself, why did they treat me that way? What did I do wrong? And then you sink into confusion, hurt, even anger. But what few people tell you is that in the unseen realm, there is a fair and invisible hand at work. Not in the way humans define justice, but in the way of the universe. Gentle, precise, and never mistaken. I remember a time when I was lost and opened the Bible. I found a verse that soothed my heart. For the Lord loves justice and does not forsake his faithful ones. Psalm 37-28. I had read it many times, but only through pain did I truly understand. Perhaps God does not stop the storm because the storm is how we discover that we can stand firm. Those who sow the wind think no one sees. They believe they can use lies to manipulate dark energy to break you down. But they forget that the universe operates on an unbreakable law. Every energy sent out will find its way back to its source. And if that energy is hatred, deceit, or jealousy, one day it will return, stronger, tenfold, 100-fold. I have witnessed this. There were people who laughed at my failures, who spoke words that tore me apart. They thought they had won. But as time passed, I saw them fall into the very situations they once wished upon others. Not because anyone cursed them, but because their own energy returned, like an unavoidable boomerang. And when that happened, I felt no joy, no satisfaction. I only saw that everything was precise, everything was fair. The justice of the universe is quiet. It does not need to prove anything. It simply happens. What is hidden in darkness will be revealed in the light. Those who lied will expose themselves through their own actions. And you, the chosen one, the one who was hurt yet remained honest, you do not need to do anything. Just stand still, breathe, and trust that a greater force is working in your favor. I know it is hard to believe sometimes. When you are betrayed, you want to scream, to demand justice right away. But the universe moves to its own rhythm. It is never in a hurry. It waits until everything is ripe, until you are strong enough to face the truth without trembling. Only then does justice appear, not to punish, but to set you free. You may not realize it, but even in your darkest days, you were wrapped in a shield of invisible protection. I call it divine protection, the light armor of chosen souls. It is not magic, but a resonance between your spirit and the pulse of the universe. You exist on a different frequency, the frequency of light, honesty, and love. And those who live in darkness can never reach that place forever. Each time you choose forgiveness over resentment, silence over revenge, you strengthen that light within. And the universe, like a just teacher, observes everything. It is not biased, but it always leans toward truth. Imagine this. Every action, word, and thought of a person is an arrow of energy. It leaves the one who sends it, travels through space, and returns to them. Some send arrows of love and receive warmth in return, but those who send arrows of hatred will see them fly back and pierce their own hearts. And when that happens, they call it bad luck or karma. But in truth, it is simply the law of balance at work. I do not tell you this so that you will wish pain upon others. No, I tell you this so you can be at peace. You do not need revenge. You do not need to prove anything. Everything that was taken from you will return in its own way. Maybe not as material things, but as peace, wisdom, and freedom. If you are in the middle of a storm right now, close your eyes. Feel that you are not alone. Even if you cannot see them, there are thousands of souls like you learning the same lesson: to let go, to trust, and to wait. I believe that if you are hearing these words, it is not by accident. You were called here to remember that you are part of a current of light, a current that can never be destroyed. And when you begin to believe that, miracles start to happen. The storm around you begins to calm, not because the world outside has changed, but because you have changed within. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, but an observer who understands that everything has a reason. For the Lord loves justice. Those words echo in me again, not by coincidence. They come as a confirmation that every act of kindness, no matter how small, is remembered. And just as surely, every shadow once sent toward you is now returning to where it came from. The boomerang effect of karma is not punishment, but purification. It keeps the energy of the world in balance. The souls who live in light will rise higher, while those who spread darkness will be forced to face themselves. And when that happens, you, the chosen one, need only to keep your light shining. Trust that nothing you have lost has gone unseen by the universe. No tear has fallen without the angels noticing. And no darkness can ever last while the light within you still burns. That is the secret of divine justice. It does not punish. It only reflects. And what you are seeing now is the mirror of karma, returning with the truth. There is a quiet law that moves through the universe, precise, impartial, and never mistaken. It does not need anyone to prove it, nor does it depend on human belief to exist. People call it many names: the law of cause and effect, the law of sowing and reaping, or simply balance. But I like to call it the breath of the universe, because just like breathing, it goes out and returns, endlessly, without pause. Every energy, whether light or dark, must follow that rhythm. There are moments when I sit alone, watching the sunset drift slowly over the water, and I wonder how many words we once spoke are still floating somewhere in the air. How many thoughts thrown out in anger are now finding their way back to their owners. We forget that words have souls, and energy has memory. The universe never forgets what was sent out. It only waits for the perfect moment to return it, complete and fair. Those who once hurt you are not cursed, nor are they punished. They are simply receiving what they once gave. And the miracle is, energy does not just return in the same form. It often multiplies many times, like ocean waves hitting the cliffs and bouncing back stronger and louder. That is the boomerang effect we talked about. I remember someone once asked me, if the universe is so fair, why do good people still suffer while the wicked seem to live comfortably? That question is not naive. I used to ask it myself hundreds of times. But one day, in a quiet moment, I understood. The universe does not return things immediately because it wants us to grow through waiting. Good people still suffer because they are being refined, learning to hold their light in the dark. And the wicked, who think they are at peace, are actually wrapping themselves in their own web of karma, only they do not see it yet. I believe every soul carries its own cycle of justice. Some receive their lessons quickly. Others may take years, even lifetimes. But no one escapes. Because energy does not disappear, it only changes form to continue its journey home. When you send out love, it is like a warm breeze that travels far and returns carrying the scent of flowers. But when you send out jealousy or hatred, that energy also returns. Only this time, it comes with smoke and fire. Every action, no matter how small, leaves a mark. Every thought, even silent, touches the heartbeat of the universe. And you know, the chosen one is not protected because they are perfect, but because they were once broken and still kept a pure heart. They do not fight darkness with darkness. They choose to trust. That faith connects them to the frequency of divine justice. When they endure, when they cry without seeking revenge, that energy becomes a prayer, and the universe listens. There was a moment in my journey I will never forget. It was the night I felt I had lost everything: faith, hope, even the sense of being protected. I sat in the dark, thinking no one could hear my prayers. But in that silence, I felt something strange, a warm wave passing through my heart, gentle as breath. I did not see light, I did not hear a voice, but there was peace, so clear that I could not deny it. In that moment, I knew the universe was whispering, I am still here. I am not saying that those who wronged you will fall today or tomorrow, but you will see, one by one, each will face exactly what they caused. You do not need to do anything. No hatred, no proof. The universe balances itself, like water that becomes calm again after being disturbed. And when that happens, you will understand that justice has always been there, waiting for you to be still enough to see it. There is a verse in Psalm 37:4 that I often read when my heart wavers. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Those words remind me that when we place our trust in the light, the universe rearranges everything for us, often in ways we could never imagine. Sometimes what we lose is not punishment, but the clearing of space for something better to arrive. And within that flow of justice, a sign begins to appear, 111. You may have seen this number somewhere, on a clock, a license plate, or even in a dream. But truly, nothing is coincidence. 111 is the number of new beginnings, a greeting from the universe to the soul ready to cross into a new doorway. When you see it, it means the old cycle is closing and the light is opening a new chapter for you, the chapter of awakening. Let that number touch your heart like a sacred seal. If when you hear it, you feel warmth in your chest or a gentle current of energy moving through you, it is a sign that you are aligned with the new frequency. You do not need to understand it with reason. Just feel it. The universe does not speak through words, but through the vibration of the soul. Perhaps you are sitting quietly now, listening to these words, thinking your life is filled with challenges. But I tell you, nothing is working against you. Everything that happens is teaching you something about patience, about trust, and about your strength to stand tall when the world around you seems to fall apart. And when you see that, you will understand that justice is not only punishment, it is the law of love. Those who spread harm are not hated. They are simply guided back to where they lost themselves. The universe does not wish to punish. It only wishes to teach every soul to return home. Darkness is only a thin layer of dust covering the light. One day, it will all be washed away. You may feel tired, but do not lose hope. Each time you face injustice, remember, you are not alone. Invisible hands are holding you. Benevolent forces are protecting you. When you sleep, they still work. When you cry, they quietly wipe your tears with the miracles that tomorrow will reveal. And if today you feel lost in the dark, just whisper, "I trust in your balance." Then breathe deeply and let your fears dissolve with your breath. Because divine justice is not far away. It lives in every heartbeat, every breath, every choice that keeps you in the light. The boomerang effect is in motion. What was once thrown out is now finding its way back. You do not need to chase it. You do not need to fight for it. Just stand still in the light of faith. Because when you do, the universe will take care of the rest. And one day soon, you will smile and realize that everything that once caused you pain has led you exactly where you needed to be, the place of perfect peace. There comes a moment when the universe begins to reveal its serious face. No longer gentle reminders, no longer soft signs, but the unfolding of judgment, not to punish, but to illuminate the shadows that humanity has long avoided. I call this the harvest season of energy, when every seed, whether good or bad, must bloom. If you pay attention, you will see it happening all around you. Those who once spoke with malice, who lied in secret, who schemed to hurt you, are slowly being pulled into the very storms they created, not because you cursed them. No. It is their own energy, the arrows they once shot, now returning, piercing the walls they thought would keep them safe. When you see this, you may feel both strange and sad, because a part of you once wanted them to understand the pain they caused you. But another part feels compassion for their blindness. The universe does not take revenge, it teaches. And their lesson begins the moment they believe they have escaped. I once heard someone say, "Those who sow darkness will one day live in that darkness." When I was young, I did not understand. Now I do. Darkness is not a place, it is a state of the soul. When someone lives by deceit, they can never rest, never be at peace. The emptiness inside them traps them within the energy they created, and that is the true judgment. When you are forced to live with what you once sent out, the universe operates with perfect memory. No action is forgotten, no thought is missed. It does not need records, because your energy itself is the journal. Every vibration, every choice, every word is etched into the invisible web that connects all beings. When the time comes, that web tightens, not to suffocate you, but to help you see your true reflection. You see, when your enemies suffer, they are not being punished. They're being forced to face themselves. And sometimes, that is the deepest punishment of all, when they realize that what they once did to others has now come back to them. That is when fear truly begins. Not fear of the world outside, but fear of the truth within. I know you may be witnessing this now. Someone who once hurt you may seem lost, confused, or broken. Look at them with understanding, not satisfaction, because you know what it feels like to fall into the dark. And now, they are learning that same lesson, the one you have already survived. There is a verse in Psalm 37:4 that says, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart." I once read that verse through tears, because amid life's judgments, I learned to find joy not in seeing others pay the price, but in keeping my own peace unchanged. When you can stay calm in the middle of the storm, that is the greatest victory. And perhaps this is the moment I want to speak to you. The one listening to these words, the soul that has been hurt, but still carries light. If these words touch your heart, share them, not to spread resentment, but to spread awareness that true justice exists. Leave a comment or a kind wish for someone who is enduring what you once endured. You never know, your words might become the first ray of light for a soul lost in darkness. When we speak of light together, darkness weakens. When we affirm that divine justice is still moving, lost souls begin to awaken. Because the only thing darkness needs to survive is the silence of light. And when you speak, when you share goodness, you make the darkness tremble. The chosen ones all have something in common. They were misunderstood, betrayed by those they trusted most, but that is what made them deep, strong, and compassionate. The universe never gives them an easy mission, because they are the souls strong enough to handle great lessons. And now, as the boomerang effect unfolds, they are the only ones who can stand still, watching without hatred. Let your heart be a mirror. Reflect everything, but hold on to nothing. When you see justice taking place, do not let your peace be clouded by joy and revenge. Instead, let compassion spread, because only through forgiveness can you truly step out of the circle of karma. If they must learn their lesson, let them. And you, keep moving forward, where the light awaits. Your enemies may think they are unlucky, but no, they are simply tasting what they once sowed. The universe does not forget, nor does it hate. It only seeks to teach every soul that true freedom comes from living honestly with your own energy. And you, the one hearing these words, you have lived honestly. Even in pain, you chose the light. Even in betrayal, you kept your faith. That is what makes you the chosen one. And as the boomerang of karma returns, you have nothing to fear. Because it is not aimed at you, you are its witness. One day, when you look back, you will see that every wound was just a test to prove to the universe that your light cannot be extinguished. You were not harmed, you were chosen. You were not abandoned. You were given the chance to see justice through the purest eyes. Divine justice does not arrive with drums or verdicts. It arrives in silence. When you see those who once hurt you bow their heads, not in fear of you, but in fear of their own truth. And when that moment comes, you will smile, because you will know the universe has done its work, and all you need to do is continue yours, to live honestly, to love deeply, and to keep believing. Share this if your heart feels moved. You do not need to say much, just one line. I believe in divine justice, because every such word, every such thought, is an arrow of light you send into the universe. And that light will return to you 1,000 times stronger, covering you when you need it most. The boomerang effect is more than a law of karma. It is the universe's message that everything you do creates an echo. And today, that echo returns to remind you that light, in the end, always wins. There are things that seem like punishment, but are really the universe's way of healing. It took me a long time to understand this. When someone falls into suffering, it is easy to think they are being punished. But no, divine justice does not work like human law. It does not seek to make anyone pay. It only returns every energy to its place of balance. The universe, in its essence, is like a great compass, always pointing toward harmony. Whenever a soul does something that throws the world off balance, through lies, hatred, or envy, the universe will find a way to correct it. And that correction is rarely pleasant, because it forces the soul to face the darkness within itself. Have you ever witnessed that? Someone who once seemed strong and in control suddenly falls apart without knowing why. Someone who once spoke with cruelty suddenly becomes isolated, with no one around. Others look and say it is karma, but in truth, it is just energy returning to its right frequency. I once asked God, why do you let them suffer? The answer came in silence. A clear, deep feeling said, "Because I am leading them back." That was the moment I understood. His justice does not come as punishment, but as light. Light never strikes anyone. It only shines so they can see themselves. And when they see, they can choose to step out of the dark or stay within it. Some people learn from the very first lesson. Others must go through many seasons of loss, many cycles of pain, before they finally look within. But no matter how long it takes, the light waits for them, patient like a mother waiting for her child to come home. I want to tell you this. Everything that happens, no matter how cruel it seems, is correction. When you are hurt, the universe is not turning away from you. It is simply rearranging the energy around you, taking away what is out of orbit to make space for something better. We cannot see that, so we think we have been abandoned. But in truth, every loss is an act of love in a harsh disguise. One night, when I was young, I stayed awake in anger. I felt betrayed, used, abandoned. I looked up at the ceiling and whispered, "If you are truly just, why do you let this happen?" For a long time, there was no answer, only the sound of the wind. But in that sound, I heard something strange, like a warm sigh saying, "Because you need to know how strong your heart is." From that moment, I stopped seeing justice through the eyes of a victim. I began to see it as a form of loving balance. For justice will return to righteousness, and all the upright in heart will follow it. Psalm 94-15. I have read that verse many times, and each time it carries a deeper meaning. Justice will return to righteousness means that every energy, after all its motion, will find its rightful place again. No one can break this law. No one can manipulate it forever. And all who are upright in heart will follow it reminds both you and me, and every soul choosing to live honestly, that justice always walks beside us. If today you see someone facing the consequences of what they have done, look at them with understanding. They are not cursed. They are being called back. Every pain they experience is the universe's invitation. Stop, look within, and understand. And if they listen, they will be saved. If they resist, the cycle will repeat until the lesson is learned. And you, the chosen one, you do not need to interfere. Often we want to warn, to save, to explain, but sometimes their lesson needs our silence. Let the universe teach them in its own language, the language of experience. You only need to stand in your light, because your light is the mirror through which they will see themselves. On this journey, you may come to realize that justice does not arrive when someone falls, but when energy returns to balance. When others face their darkness, you do not need to lift them, nor do you need to push them down. Just keep your inner light steady, because that light is the guide, not only for you, but for them too. Divine justice does not divide people into good or bad. It simply reflects truth. If you sow love, flowers will bloom around you. If you sow fear and envy, the world will feel smaller and heavier, not because someone wants to punish you, but because you are living inside the energy you created. Think about it. Isn't that how everything in life works? You smile at someone, they smile back. You shout, and suddenly the world feels loud. You love, and everything seems brighter. Every reaction is only reflection. And universal justice is the greatest mirror of all, reflecting every soul without exception. And you, the one hearing these words, do not fear judgment. If you have lived honestly, loved deeply, and forgiven sincerely, nothing can come back to harm you. On the contrary, every good thing you have sent out is finding its way back to you. You just haven't seen it yet. Soon you will feel it as an opportunity, a new friendship, or a quiet peace when you wake up in the morning. Those who have spread bitterness are in their stage of correction. Let them pass through it. Let them learn. Let them understand. Divine justice will handle the rest. And you, keep the truth alive in your heart, for that is what protects you. Every soul has its own path. And in the great music of the universe, every note has a reason to sound. Whether it is the sound of tears or laughter, all of it contributes to the harmony of fairness and healing. Trust that even when everything looks chaotic, order is being restored. And when divine justice finishes its work, you will see that no one is truly judged, only guided back to the frequency where they belong. There is a kind of darkness that needs no screams, no weapons, yet it quietly eats away at every soul it touches. It does not come from distant enemies, but often from those who once smiled at us. That darkness has a name, envy. I once thought envy was a small emotion, just a passing shadow across the sky of the mind. But no, when nurtured, it becomes a fire, a slow, silent fire burning inside unhealed souls, eventually consuming them from within. Those who envy you do not necessarily hate you. They simply cannot bear to see you shine while they are still lost in their own shadows. Your light makes them face the parts of themselves they have not yet accepted, their failures, their shortcomings, their abandoned dreams. And instead of learning to love themselves, they choose to tear others down. They believe that if they can dim your light, they will feel better. But what they do not realize is that the more they try to pull the light down, the more that fire burns them. I have seen this with my own eyes, clear enough to never deny it. A friend who once seemed kind began to say things that made me doubt myself. At first, I thought she was joking, but over time, her words grew sharper, her eyes colder. I could not understand why kindness could be misunderstood, why sincerity could make someone angry. Then I realized it was not that I had done something wrong. I had simply shined a little brighter, and my light made her eyes hurt. Envy is a form of fear, the fear of not being enough, the fear that someone else is living the life we think should have been ours. But that fear, when left unhealed, becomes poison. It turns love into resentment, admiration into hatred. And the universe, in its perfect order, cannot allow that energy to remain forever. One day, the energy of envy returns to its source, stronger and fiercer, forcing its owner to face the emptiness within their heart. I remember a verse from Psalm 7:15. He who digs a hole for others will fall into it himself. That is not a curse, it is the truth of energy. When you spend your life watching others, wishing for their failure, you lose your own direction. You cannot climb a mountain if your eyes are always fixed on someone else. Sooner or later, you will stumble, not because anyone pushed you, but because you stopped walking. And that is what you are seeing around you now. Those who once wanted to see you fall are now trapped in their own maze. They are lost, exhausted, confused by their own collapse. But you understand, because you have learned that the universe does not punish, it reflects. Envy is a distorted mirror. It makes people see themselves through comparison, jealousy, and desire. But when that mirror cracks, they are forced to see their true image, no masks, no filters. And that is the most painful moment of all. Someone once told me, when they cannot destroy you, they will try to dim your light. And it is true. There are times when you feel drained by the words, the stares, the rumors. But believe me, every time you choose not to hate, the universe tilts a little more in your favor. Every time you forgive, you lift your vibration higher, beyond the reach of their poison arrows. You do not need to fight back. Light does not battle darkness, it simply shines, and the darkness disappears. Those who envy you will drown in their own energy, and you just keep living truthfully, shining and loving, because light never loses. There are nights when you lie still, remembering everything, and realize that those who hurt you actually helped you see your true worth. They were mirrors turned backward, showing you lessons about confidence, boundaries, and unconditional love. You do not need to hate them. Thank them quietly, because through them, you discovered that your light is real. The universe always knows how to correct distorted energy. When someone keeps sending out envy, their life begins to lose balance. The things they desire slip further away because their focus is on others instead of themselves. But you, if you remain peaceful, will see everything around you begin to bloom: your work, your health, your relationships, not because you are luckier, but because you are living at a higher frequency where envy cannot exist. If you are remembering someone who once hurt you with jealousy, close your eyes and release them. Imagine them as a lost child, struggling with anger they do not understand. Whisper softly, "I forgive you. I send you back to the light." That is enough. The universe will hear, and that energy will be freed from you, from them, from the invisible thread that once tied your souls together. Then you will feel it, the lightness. Everything becomes clear like the sky after rain. And in that silence, you will hear the whisper of divine justice. I have seen it all. You do not need to do anything more. Those who envy you are not your enemies. They are souls who have not yet learned their lessons. One day, they will understand. They will stand where you once stood, feel the pain you once felt, and then they will know that nothing is ever random. And When you see them learn that lesson, do not judge, do not gloat, just smile. Because you know that divine justice needs no proof. It only needs you to keep living true to your light. Remember, the energy of envy is like a boomerang. It always returns to where it was thrown. And when it comes back, it carries not only the pain, but also the opportunity for the soul to awaken. That is the truth of the universe. Nothing is lost. No one is forgotten. There are only souls on their way home, through different roads and different lessons. And you, the chosen one, only need to keep shining. Because your light is the gentlest judgment of all, it condemns no one. It simply shows every soul the way they need to go. Perhaps you've heard the saying, silence is golden. But in a world filled with noise, where everyone wants to speak, to prove, to be heard, silence seems like weakness. Yet the truth is the opposite. In the spiritual journey of chosen souls, silence is one of the most powerful forms of strength. I am not talking about the silence of fear, but the silence of understanding. The silence of those who know they do not need to argue to prove the truth or shout to be recognized. Because when a soul is connected with divine energy, all noise becomes unnecessary. Justice does not need to be defended with words. It protects itself through its presence. I used to talk a lot. When someone accused me unfairly, I wanted to explain. When I was misunderstood, I wanted to tell everything. I used to believe that only when I spoke would people truly understand. But the more I talked, the more exhausted I became. Then I discovered something different. Those who have chosen to believe the wrong will not change because of your words. And those who truly see you never need you to explain. The universe taught me that lesson in the most subtle way. I lost many things. My job, relationships, my reputation. I tried to resist, to prove my innocence. But every effort failed, until one day, I was too tired to speak anymore. I just sat still, closed my eyes, and whispered, I surrender it all. Strangely, from that day, everything began to change. Not outside me, but inside. I was no longer afraid. I no longer needed people to understand. I only needed peace in my heart. And then, little by little, the truth began to reveal itself. I did not need to explain. I did not need to defend. Those who spoke ill of me started showing their true nature. Those who attacked me began to be hurt by their own words. I did nothing. I stayed silent. But that silence spoke louder than anything I could have said. Psalm 46:10 says, Be still and know that I am God. Every time I read that verse, I feel small and humbled. Because in silence, I realize I do not need to control anything anymore. I am not the judge. I am not the jury. I am the witness, the one learning to trust the invisible hand of the Creator. The silence of the chosen is not withdrawal. It is the strategy of the soul. It cuts off the supply to negative energy. Those who attack you feed on your reactions. They need your voice to survive. When you are silent, they become confused. When you do not respond, they feel empty. And in that emptiness, their karma begins to unfold. Have you noticed that the more people gossip and hate, the heavier their lives become? While those who choose silence grow lighter and clearer. Because silence is how you withdraw your energy from darkness. When you refuse to join their battle, you force them to face themselves. And that is what they fear most. There are days when your silence feels lonely. You want to speak up, to explain, to hear someone say, I believe you. But sometimes validation does not come from outside. It comes from within. As long as you know who you are, as long as you stand on the side of light, you are enough. Because justice does not need a crowd. Justice only needs truth. Imagine your mind as a still lake. When someone throws a stone, the water ripples, and the reflection distorts. But when you stay silent, when you do not react, the surface calms, and everything becomes clear again. The truth does not need your shouting. It only needs you to keep the lake still. I remember during a meditation, I heard a whisper in my heart, Your silence is my voice. And at that moment, I understood. When we choose silence with faith, the universe speaks for us. It has countless ways to reveal justice through unexpected events, through the words of others, or sometimes through the quiet collapse of falsehoods. Those who once wanted to see you hurt now begin to feel the pressure of their own actions. They no longer hear your voice. They no longer see your reaction, and that unsettles them. They think they have won, but in truth, they are being consumed by your silence. That silence forces them to sit with themselves, to face the echo of their own words. And in that echo, they begin to understand what they have done. As for you, in your silence, you hear something else. You hear the footsteps of peace drawing near. You hear the whisper of your soul saying, "I am here." And then you realize you do not need to speak anymore. The universe is already speaking for you. This silence is not an escape from life, but a return to yourself. It allows you to hear your true voice, to discern what comes from fear and what comes from faith. When you are still enough, you will feel the right direction, without needing to ask anyone. And from that moment, you begin to live not to prove, but to align. It is miraculous how, when you become silent, everything around you begins to shift. People talk less, conflicts dissolve, new opportunities appear effortlessly. Why? Because your energy has changed. You are no longer resisting. You are simply being like light, like breath, like truth. Remember, the silence of the chosen is not weakness. It is the strongest weapon of all, the one that darkness fears most, because within it lies the peace it cannot understand. When you do not react, you tell the universe you trust divine justice. And that faith is what protects you. Hold your silence as a sacred treasure. No matter how loud the world becomes, no matter who tries to pull you into conflict, just smile, because you know that justice does not need words. It only needs time. And in that time, your silence is proof that you have already won. Let your silence be your prayer, your gratitude, your declaration that you are no longer afraid. And when you do, you will see, you do not need to shout to be heard. You do not need to fight to win, because true light always shines in silence. Forgiveness, two simple words, yet one of the hardest lessons the human soul will ever face. Not everyone understands that forgiveness does not mean forgetting, nor does it mean accepting what was wrong. Forgiveness happens when you are strong enough to release the weight of the past, to free your heart from the chains of pain. It is the first step on the path back to light. When you have moved beyond judgment, when you have learned the lesson of silence, you begin to hear the call of forgiveness, not from anyone else, but from within yourself. A small, quiet, but honest voice whispers, "It's time to let go." At first, you will resist it, because part of you wants to hold on to the pain as proof of what you've endured. But then you realize, holding on to resentment is like clutching a burning coal and hoping the other person will be the one who gets burned. I remember a long time when I thought I had forgiven. I told everyone, I'm not angry anymore. But every time I heard that person's name, my heart tightened, my eyes dimmed. That wasn't forgiveness. It was suppression. True forgiveness comes when you can speak their name and feel peace, when the memory no longer shakes you. Forgiveness is when you can pray for the one who hurt you, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. The universe loves souls that can let go, because when you forgive, your energy becomes light as breath, and new blessings can finally reach you. When you cling to resentment, the door of grace remains closed. But when you say, I forgive, you open that door. The light pours in, softly and quietly, bringing with it a strange sense of relief, as if your soul has just been washed clean by rain. There is a number that often appears during this stage, a sign many souls have felt: 555. It carries the vibration of transformation and multiplied grace. If you keep seeing this number, it is the universe's way of saying that you are in the middle of a great shift. Every change, no matter how painful, is leading you toward freedom. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks that gate. 555 is the number of journeys where the old soul dissolves and a new being begins to form. Each time you release a grudge, you cut one more energetic cord binding you to the past. And with each release, you become lighter, brighter. The universe sees this and begins to send you quiet blessings, a kind encounter, a new opportunity, or simply the calm of waking up in peace. When you forgive, you no longer live in the past. You return to the present, the only place where divine justice fully operates. You stop asking, why did they do this to me? And begin to understand they could only give what they had. A person filled with darkness can only share darkness, but that does not mean you must keep it. You have the right to return it not with hate, but with light. I remember during a prayer, an image appeared clearly in my mind. I was standing in a vast field of wind, holding a small lantern. I raised it high, and its light slowly dissolved the shadows around me. In that moment, I understood forgiveness did not make me weaker. It made my light reach farther. Forgiveness is an act of courage. It asks you to face yourself, your pain, your pride, your longing for justice. But when you cross that line, you discover another kind of strength, not the strength of one who wins a battle, but of a soul who has risen above it. Once I read a verse from the Bible that never left me. Overcome evil with good. Romans 12:21. Just one sentence, yet the entire philosophy of forgiveness rests within it. You don't need to defeat anyone. You only need to refuse to become like them. Every time you choose love, instead of retaliation, you tell the universe, I choose light, and that choice is always blessed. You may ask, how do I truly forgive? Sometimes the only way is through prayer. No rituals needed, just whisper, I release them to you. I don't want to carry this anymore. Say it every day, and one day, you will realize you truly let go, not with your mind, but with your heart. Forgiveness is also protection. When you are no longer tied by resentment, no one can control your energy. Those who once hurt you lose their power, because that power only exists as long as you are in pain. When you are at peace, you become untouchable. If you are hearing these words now, perhaps the universe is telling you, it's time to forgive. Maybe it's someone else. Maybe it's yourself. Maybe it's a past you thought you could never release. Start simply by breathing deeply. Feel the pain, then let it go like a leaf floating down a river. You don't need to tell anyone you've forgiven. True forgiveness needs no announcement. It is that quiet moment when you open your heart and allow the universe to do the rest. Then you'll feel the shift. Your energy becomes lighter. Life begins to flow again. What was stuck begins to move. Forgiveness is the soul's miracle. It turns wounds into gateways, tears into light, bitterness into freedom. And when you truly forgive, you are no longer the one who has hurt, you become the healer. Remember, no one can step through the gates of light while still holding on to resentment. Lay it down. Let the universe take it and transform it into something beautiful. Because the moment you forgive, your entire inner world begins to change. And from that moment on, you are no longer a victim of the past. You are living proof of one eternal truth. Light can always be born from darkness if you are brave enough to let go. After every season of storms, there comes a strange moment of peace that does not come from the world outside, but from deep within. No more fear, no more resentment, only a sense that you have been reborn. That is the sign of spiritual ascension, when the soul steps out of its old shell to become what it truly is: pure, radiant, and whole. Ascension does not happen in a day. It is the journey of every wound being seen, every pain being healed, every fear being embraced with love. It is not a blinding light from the heavens, but the gentle glow that rises from your own heart once you stop running from yourself. I often think of the universe as a potter, shaping souls through trials and heartbreak. In peace, we are soft. In pain, we crack. But the potter never discards our broken pieces. He gathers them, fills the cracks with gold, the gold of understanding, the light of forgiveness. That is how the soul is lifted, not through perfection, but through compassion for its own broken parts. The chosen ones always walk this path. They do not just survive pain, they are transformed by it. Each wound teaches them empathy. Each betrayal teaches them faith. Each fall into darkness teaches them how to shine from within. And then they begin to see the world differently. No longer divided between good and bad, between us and them, but as one continuous stream of energy, where every soul is learning its own lesson. Those who once harmed them are now seen with compassion, because they understand, without that darkness, their light would never have burned so brightly. Psalm 30:5 says, "Weeping may last through the night, but joy comes in the morning." And it is true. The dawn of the soul always follows the longest night. Every tear that once fell had meaning. Each drop watered the soil of your spirit, so that flowers of awakening could bloom. When you reach this stage, you discover something profound. No one outside you can hurt you anymore, because you finally understand that pain only exists when you still believe you are separate from the light. But when you remember your true nature, a spark within the infinite ocean of light, fear disappears. You no longer fear loss, betrayal, or misunderstanding. You see that everything was just a lesson in the grand play of the soul. One night, during meditation, I saw before me a stream of white light, clear and slow, like mist. Within that light, I heard a voice whisper, "You do not need to seek me, for you are already in me." I understood then, ascension is not about rising upward, but moving inward, deep into the truth of who you are, where the soul and the source are no longer two, but one. From that moment, the world began to feel different. Everything seemed slower, more alive. The sound of birds, the sunlight, the wind, even the silence, all carried messages. I no longer searched for signs, because the world itself had become the sign. I no longer begged in prayer, because I knew that every prayer was heard the moment it was felt. I no longer sought justice, because I realized justice was already breathing in every heartbeat. When the soul ascends, you understand that your enemies were never truly others. They are parts of you in different forms, sent to remind you of what you needed to remember. And when you see this, you stop wanting revenge. You stop needing to prove anything. You simply want to say, thank you for every experience, even the ones that broke you. That is the state of sacred gratitude, where you see meaning in everything. Both pain and joy, both loss and blessing, are rivers flowing into the same ocean. And you, the chosen one, are standing on its shore, watching it all with an open heart. Remember this, ascension does not make you someone new. It helps you remember who you have always been. You are not a victim of karma. You are the one transcending it. You are not a lost soul. You are the light finding its way home. When you reach this point, what once hurt you loses its power. The person who once wounded you may still exist, but their energy can no longer touch you. They are actors still performing in an old scene, while you have already moved on to a new chapter. Ascension is not the end. It is the beginning of another journey, the journey of light. Because when you become light, you begin to radiate it, not through words, but through presence. People will feel peace around you, even when you say nothing. They will ask, "How can you be so calm?" And you will smile, because you know you are not trying to be calm anymore. You are peace itself. The universe has a beautiful way of acknowledging a soul's ascension. It sends you synchronicities, signs, numbers, encounters that feel divinely timed. Each time you see 555, you know transformation is near. Each time you see 777, you know you are on the right path. And when that happens, share your awareness. Not to prove anything, but to affirm to the universe, I hear you. If you are hearing these words, your soul may be standing at the threshold of ascension. You may feel tired, but deep inside, you know you are rising. Do not be afraid. The loneliness you feel now is not emptiness. It is the space being cleared to be filled with new light. Breathe deeply. Feel the heartbeat in your chest. That is the rhythm of the universe beating within you. You do not need to go anywhere to find God. He is in every cell of your body, in every tear, every smile, every breath. And when you realize this, you become free, no longer bound by the past, no longer afraid of the future, simply existing in light. And that is the true ascension of the soul. When the soul has walked through fire, when it has passed the long nights of forgiveness and the bright days of peace, another door opens the door of deeper understanding. A realization dawns that everything in the universe moves in balance. It is not only light that gives life, but also darkness that nourishes it. In this stage, you begin to see a truth you may have once denied. No light exists without shadow. Each time you rise, an old part of you falls away. Each time you move closer to the source of light, your shadow becomes more defined. That is not failure. It is proof that you are moving in the right direction. I once believed that enlightenment meant escaping darkness forever. But the deeper I went, the more I understood enlightenment is not running from darkness. It is learning to love it. Because within your darkness, you see your limits, your fears, your fragility, the very things that make you human. Only when you embrace them do you become whole, radiant light. One morning, I walked along the shore as dawn was breaking. The sun was half hidden, casting soft gold over the waves. And I realized that it was the night's darkness that made the sunrise so breathtaking. Without night, we would never know what light truly is. Just as without pain, we would never know how vast our capacity for compassion can be. This is the stage where the chosen ones begin to enter oneness. They no longer see the world divided between good and evil, victory and defeat, right and wrong. They understand that all are notes in the grand symphony of creation. Both light and darkness serve the same purpose, to help the soul remember who it truly is. And within this union, a sacred sign often appears 777. This number is not just a symbol of awakening, but a confirmation from the universe that your soul has entered a higher level of awareness. 777 is the number of divine alignment, the covenant between you and the higher light. When it appears, it means you have crossed the tests of the past. You are no longer led by fear, but by intuition, by complete trust in your path. If hearing this number sends a shiver through your spine or warmth across your chest, that is your signal. The universe is saying, I see you, I acknowledge you. Remember that moment, for it marks the soul that has completed one karmic cycle and stepped into a higher realm of consciousness. Psalm 119-105 says, Your word is a lamp for my feet, a light on my path. When I read that verse again, I understood light is not the destination, it is the path itself. With each step you take, the light extends just a little farther. No one is shown the entire road at once, because if we saw it all, we would never learn trust. The light of God, of the universe, of your own soul, is always enough for the next step. That is the miracle of the journey. At this point, the chosen ones carry a peace that feels almost unshakable. They no longer need to be understood, no longer need to prove anything, because they have seen that divine justice is not only about repayment, it is about harmony. Darkness is no longer the enemy, it is the teacher. Light is no longer the reward, it is the essence. Once I asked a spiritual teacher, how do I know if I've truly awakened? He smiled and said, when you no longer need to win. I didn't understand then, but now I do. When you stop needing to prove, when you stop needing to compete, your soul has returned to its original balance, where only love exists. That balance is not stillness, but rhythm, the sacred pulse between two forces. Like the heartbeat, contracting and expanding, giving and receiving. If you cling to only one side, you stop living. Just as if you crave only light and reject darkness, you will never see the whole picture. When you understand this, you stop judging. You begin to see the world through the eyes of the soul. You see that the angry are only afraid. The envious are only longing to be loved. And when you look at them through the lens of light, they no longer have power to hurt you. You may already feel it, your emotions softening, your sleep deepening, your encounters becoming more meaningful. These are signs that your energy is rising, and other souls are being touched through you. Because when you reach balance, you not only heal yourself, you send healing ripples across the world. If you are hearing these words, let the number 777 be your confirmation. Feel where it vibrates, in your heart, in your throat, or in the light between your eyes. Wherever it moves, that is where your soul is opening. And if you feel that resonance, share it, not to show off, but to spread the light. Speak the number that awakens something in you, so that other souls walking beside you may find their own signs. Because this journey is not yours alone. We are all walking together through layers of light and shadow, returning to the same source love. In the end, you will understand. Divine justice is no longer something to wait for, but something you are living right now. When you are in harmony with both light and darkness, when you no longer resist, you become one with the flow of the universe. And in that oneness, you will feel a sacred truth. Nothing is against you. Everything is working for you. Then, you no longer fear karma, for you have risen above it. You no longer fear loss, for you have become the flow that gives. You no longer seek the light, for you have become the light. And that is divine balance, where light and darkness dissolve into each other, leaving only one thing: the infinite love of the Creator. When a journey ends, people often expect something grand, a miracle, a burst of light from the heavens, or a strange sign that says, it's done. But for the chosen ones, the ending is never loud. It arrives quietly, like a breath, like dew melting from a leaf in the morning sunday. A stillness spreads through the air, and you simply know. You know that everything has returned to its rightful place. Divine justice has completed its course. What was once out of balance has been restored. Those who sowed harm are now facing their own creation, not because anyone judged them, but because energy always returns home. And you, the soul who once stood in the storm, now stand in the sunrise. There is no need for gloating, no trace of resentment. You just smile, softly, like someone who finally understands. I often think of a garden after the storm. Trees broken, leaves scattered. Yet when the sun rises, the drops of rain still clinging to the branches sparkle like diamonds. That is you, the one who has walked through destruction, and now reflects the light of the universe in your most natural beauty. For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. Psalm 91:11. This verse feels like a final blessing from the Creator. You were never alone on this path, even when you couldn't see them. Bright souls, unseen angels, walked beside you, holding you when you stumbled, lifting you when you forgot you had wings. Now, you are no longer the one who was hurt. You are the witness of justice, the carrier of light, moving through the world not by preaching, but by presence. Every step you take is a prayer. Every embrace, every smile, every calm you bring to another is proof that the light has won. When you look back, you begin to see that everything had a purpose. If you had never been betrayed, you wouldn't have learned to trust yourself. If you had never lost, you wouldn't have discovered true freedom. If you had never faced the night, you would never have known the beauty of light. Every wound now shines like golden etching on your soul, proof that you have matured in the light of divine justice. And within that stillness, another feeling grows: gratitude. Gratitude for those who hurt you, for they taught you forgiveness. Gratitude for those who left, for they made space for better things to come. Gratitude for yourself, because you never gave up. You realize that life was never about winning or losing, but about understanding. Understanding that every soul walks its own path. That justice is not only about what's returned, but about what's awakened. That forgiveness is not for others to rest, but for you to be free. And most of all, understanding that you are not just a human being. Living, you are a soul, remembering who you are. If you've ever asked, how do I know my journey is complete? This is your answer. When you can look back at everything and feel peace, when you no longer need apologies, no longer need validation, no longer need to prove you were right, when you can simply be still, smile, and whisper, thank you. That is the moment you are truly free. No longer bound by the past, no longer haunted by the future. You simply exist. You know that you are protected, loved, and guided in every breath. And you begin to see proof of it everywhere, in repeated numbers, in a cool breeze, in the kind glance of a stranger smiling at you on the street. The universe is saying to you, you have done well. Let your heart open wide. Send blessings even to those who once caused you pain, that they too may find their light. Share what you have learned, not through advice, but through the energy of peace. When people come near you, they will feel comfort without knowing why. They will sense the presence of a soul that is healed. And if you still hold a wish in your heart for someone, for yourself, or for the world, speak it softly, because the prayers of an awakened soul are powerful. They do not just rise. They merge with the heartbeat of the universe, sending waves of healing across creation. Know this. This story, the journey of light and shadow, of justice and grace, is not just mine or yours, but ours. Every soul is a thread in the great tapestry the divine is weaving. When one thread glows, the entire tapestry shines. So do not keep your light to yourself. Share it. Tell someone in pain that they are not alone. Remind a lost soul that divine justice is still at work. Send good energy into the world, because you never know whose life it may touch. Perhaps someone you've never met, but whom the universe will guide your light toward. If your heart feels stirred, if you feel a gentle brightness rising within, share it. You don't need many words, just truth. I believe in the light, for when you speak those words, you affirm your faith and open the door for countless other souls who need to hear them too. The journey of divine justice has come to a close, but the journey of light never ends. Because light has no end, it expands, embraces, and restores all things. Now take a deep breath and know this. You have been chosen, you have been protected, and you are being guided. Everything you've been through was not in vain. It has all come together to form a beautiful symphony called Awakening. And as you move forward, remember, justice is not far away. It lives in every heartbeat, in every loving glance you give, in every breath you take within this world. Because when you live in the light, you are the living proof that every soul can find its way home. Grateful that you chose to spend these moments in the light of this story. If it touched your soul, please like, share, and subscribe, and ring the bell so the next whisper of light may find its way back to you.